it is always has been always my biggest challenge. How can I bring my voice as a member of the Palestinian minority in Israel, as a Palestinian citizen of Israel, to bring my voice to resonate among the audience. In this case would be the Israeli viewers or the readers in case of literature or writing for Haaretz. And it's a very big challenge.
Good afternoon. My name is Susan Spurlock. I'm the Executive Director of Ford Hall Forum at Suffolk University, the nation's oldest continuously operating free public lecture series. I am so pleased to welcome you here today, both those here joining us at Suffolk University in our live audience and those joining us virtually via Zoom. We are delighted to welcome back to Suffolk University Syed Kashua, the preeminent award-winning Palestinian author, screenwriter, and newspaper columnist. Syed, I was in the audience when you last visited Suffolk University, and I have to tell you, I was overwhelmed and in extraordinary awe of your presentation. You brought such heart and humor to your presentation, and you are a gloriously magnificent storyteller. So we are really looking forward to spending time with you this afternoon. This program is a collaboration co-sponsored by, in addition to Ford Hall Forum, the Departments of Political Science and Legal Studies and Communication, Journalism and Media. I'd also like to thank the Lowell Institute, one of Ford Hall Forum's funders, whose generous support makes programs like this possible. It is now my pleasure to introduce this afternoon's moderator, Michal Ben-Josef Hirsch, an associate professor in the Political Science and Legal Studies Department here at Suffolk University. Her research interests include international relations theory, international norms, international policy, transitional justice, and the conflict in Israel and Palestine. And on a personal note, Michal, it is always a pleasure partnering with you. We have done so many programs over the years, and it's just a real pleasure. So thank you, and please join us here.
Thank you. So most of the people here know me. I see me twice a week, so it's okay. My name is Michal Ben-Josef, and I teach here at Suffolk at the Political Science and Legal Studies. I'm really excited to see that the students made it, even though I made it mandatory, so it's good. But I'm also excited to see some faculty members here and actually some guests from the area. So I'm happy that some people could, outside Suffolk. I want to thank the Political Science and Legal Studies Department and the Communication and Journalism and Media for helping sponsor the event. I want to give special thanks to my colleague, Professor Shoshana Madmoni-Gerber, for being a great collaborator. My thanks to Susan Spurlock and the Ford Hall Forum. As we all know, the budgets are always tight, and to have these amazing opportunities to bring artists, scholars, fascinating people to Suffolk is really a privilege. So I'm really grateful to the Ford Hall Forum and to Susan for helping us in doing that. I would like now to welcome our guest, the author and screenplay and writer, Syed Kashua, and academic, Syed Kashua. Syed Kashua is a Palestinian citizen of Israel. He was raised in Tira, which is an Arab town in the center of Israel. While Arabic is his mother tongue, he has been writing mostly in Hebrew, writings that focus on the struggles integrating into a majority Jewish Israeli society while not abandoning the Arab-Palestinian identity. He is the author of 4 novels, Dancing Arabs, Let It Be Morning, Second Person Singular, and Track Changes. All of them translated to English, and you can get them on Amazon. For many years, he wrote a satirical weekly column in Hebrew for the Israeli newspaper Haaretz, and his columns also appeared in the New York Times, The Guardian, and the New York Review of Books. He is the writer and creator of 3 Israeli TV shows, sitcoms, you can call some of them, one of them at least, right? Arab Labor, The Writer, and Madrasa. All those shows depict different aspects of lives of Palestinians in the Jewish majority society of Israel. 2 of his novels, Dancing Arabs and Let It Be Morning, have been made into feature films. In 2004, Kashua was awarded the Prime Minister Prize in Literature in Israel, but since he actually won on his writing, on his cinematic works, many awards, both in Israel and around the world. Said Kashua moved to the United States in 2014, and since then held various academic positions. Currently, he lives in St. Louis, Missouri, where he's completing a Ph.D. in comparative literature at Washington University, writing about Palestinian literature. I welcome Said, and then we'll have discussion and Q&A after the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks. It's a great honor being here. I hope you are not going to regret it. Actually, when I'm introduced, I feel I'm more important than I am. I'm not. I'm just a PhD student. And, okay, so I will leave some time, of course, for your questions. I hope they will be more interesting than my talk. Yeah, sometimes I don't know, I have a PowerPoint, something in there. I think being in academy maybe ruined my humor a little bit, but I'll try to revive it. So actually, the scene that you see here, it's from the writer. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about TV. Maybe this talk will focus a little bit on the TV writing only because I have visuals from the TV writing, but it's the same subjects, different languages, but the same subjects that I deal with. You will see it also in my writing. So let's start from the very first scene from the writer. It's again a 10-episode comedy drama that was broadcast in Israel in 2015.
נמצא איתנו היום התסריטאי של סדרת הטלוויזיה עבודה עברית, סופר שחיבר 4 ספרים, ערבי ישראלי, ילי טייבה, והיום הוא ידבר איתנו על העבודה שלו, על הסדרה שכולנו אוהבים, וגם על חיים של ערבי ארץ ישראל. אז אנחנו מאוד שמחים שהוא נמצא פה איתנו היום. בבקשה.
אז שלום לכולם וצהריים טובים.
רק קצת פחות קרוב למיקרופון, בגלל שהמכשיר השמיע מצפצף.
אוקיי. אז צהריים טובים לכולם.
לא שומעים.
זה עובד? כן. שמי קאטב, אני גר בירושלים, בשכונה חילונית.
לא שומעים.
אני לא יכול...
אולי אנחנו לא צריכים לשמוע, אולי גם זה נכון.
לא, אתם צריכים לשמוע אותי, אני מקווה שהמיקרופון, לא יודע, מהטכנאי פה. להתחיל מההתחלה? שמעת? אוקיי, בסדר.
So I chose that scene again, the very first scene from the pilot of the writer. I think because it has been always my biggest challenge. How can I bring my voice as a member of the Palestinian minority in Israel, as a Palestinian citizen of Israel, to bring my voice to resonate among the audience? In this case, would be the Israeli viewers or the readers in case of literature or writing for Haaretz. And it's a very big challenge. And so this is, so it's the microphone, the silencing. How can I bring my voice? What I should address? In this case, he's given a talk, yes, the writer. Of course, Tira and Taibet, completely 2 different villages, 3 or 4 novels, and also, yes, Haravim, the Israeli Arabs, they say, yes, Arviyeh Eretz Israel, all these definitions in the very first seen from this pilot. But again, this is the challenge. That was always my challenge as a Palestinian writing in Hebrew. Supposedly, the implied reader or viewer in this case is the Israeli majority. So the legitimacy of you belonging to minority, although minorities can be actually considered a very bad word, because again, yes, it puts you in this position of being a minority. But yes, let's use minority for the sake of the argument for now. So what is legitimate and what is not as a minority? And how can you bring your voice? And how to address the majority? Yes, usually in Israel, generally speaking, it would be a majority that thinks or believes that it's superior compared to the Palestinians or the Arab minority, right? I started my journey writing professionally, meaning being paid a little for writing, when I was actually 21, back in 1996, after 3 years in the Hebrew University. I was supposed to finish my BA degree. You'd finish your BA degree, I'll tell you, you're gonna suffer if not. It took me a while to finish it later, but it was like a dream coming true, that I started writing for a local, wonderful back then, Kol Ha'ir, a local newspaper in Jerusalem. And again, it was writing in Hebrew for Israeli readers. And I was, and I used Hebrew because I was accepted and sent by my parents to a Jewish boarding school when I was 15. I was born and raised in Tira, as mentioned here, a Palestinian village in Israel. I'm not going to go deep into the different categories or statuses. There are many different kinds of Palestinianness, yes? So there's Palestinians in Israel that were occupied in 1948, and then the Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza, 1967, and the Palestinian refugees in the West Bank refugee camps and around the Arab world. And then, so it's different kind of Palestinianness, and the definition of Palestinian itself can be challenging sometimes. Anyway, so I belong to this group of Palestinians. I think it's not for me. No? Okay. They are arresting another Arab? I'm sorry. What? Yeah, no, it's a bad joke. For some reason, this sound always makes me nervous. And even the tornado sirens every Tuesday at the beginning of the month make me still very nervous. I remember the first week when we moved to Urbana-Champaign, no one told me that they checked the tornado. Oh my God, I was shocked. Took the kids to the basement. Luckily, we had a basement there, but I didn't know who was attacking us in Champaign, Illinois. That's another story. So that was the challenge. And I started, by the way, my writing career in this Kol Ha'ir newspaper. I was a news reporter, magazine and news reporter, reporting from the West Bank and Gaza. It was the Oslo Agreement, but I'm witnessing actually the collapse of the Oslo Agreement and the collapse of the political, or what used to be the PLO in Israel, in Palestine, sorry. I'm not going to go, but I was a news reporter, because usually if you're an Arab journalist, if you're lucky to be hired by an Israeli newspaper, usually you are expected to report about Arab issues, yes? Usually. It's very few Arab journalists really work in the Israeli media. So I was one of them. And my Hebrew was good again, because I was sent to this Jewish boarding school in Jerusalem, and I always tell this joke actually, as I wrote in the book. I'm always asked why your parents sent you. It was supposed to be the best school in Israel, and I remember I truly did not want to go there to be one of the two Arabs back then who studied in a Jewish school. It's called the IASA, Israeli Arts and Arabs and Science Academy, Israeli Arts and Science Academy, and cried a lot. I remember that just truly want to go back home to be in Tira, to study in high school. And my father told me that when finally you were accepted, one of the only Arabs accepted to study physics and math in the best school of Israel, so you can be the first Palestinian to build the atomic bomb that we can destroy the state. You cannot say no. So they never thought that I'm going to focus on art and literature, he has a completely different plan. So I cannot tell you how disappointed he was when I chose Hebrew as my language to write novels. So I joined that newspaper, and I tried to be a serious journalist. And I remember that we got married very young, I think relatively. I was 23 or something when I got married with my wife, and at one point I entered Kol Ha'ir newspaper. We used to share, the open space. It's not like today. We didn't have even internet, I think, back then. I was married before the internet was a thing, was an issue. And the editor-in-chief told me, you look like someone who suffers from Dijon Lifnei Lida, how it's called, postpartum depression. Yes, postmortem. Yes. No, postpartum. Yes, exactly. Depression. And I said, yes, my wife is pregnant. She was maybe the first month. He said, and then they had their meeting, and the editorial meeting, and he came back and said, why don't you write like a personal column about that? We'll call it a ticking bomb, and you'll write about, it was in 2000. But they changed that, actually. I remember Daphna Baram, the daughter of Chaim Baram, was the news editor, left-wing. She said, no, that's a very racist title. Let's call it Speaking from the Belly, or Medaber Me'abeten. So that was the title. So I was reporting. I continued reporting about the news from the West Bank and Gaza every week. But on Wednesdays, just before the closure of the newspaper, I would write my column about this neurotic Palestinian father who's expecting a child, a very personal, still political, to deal with doctors, with family, with names. We should give it like a global, universal name. All my kids, Neil and Emil. I always joke that it's prophets from the Quran. Their name is just not true. It's just to assimilate and pass as. So it was very personal, political. And I remember one day I was trying to get out from Ramallah. There's the checkpoint in Ramallah, and the Israeli soldier stops me at the checkpoint, and he asks for the ID as usual. I'm always nervous about it. And he looks at the name and he said, "You're Said Kashua from the newspaper?" And I said, "Yes." "How is your wife doing? When is she due?" I said, okay. So I've been writing for years about news and the horrible situation of Palestinians, but people truly wanted to read about personal, political, humoristic columns. And actually it was a big success, the column, and since then I'm more recognized because of this satirical weekly columns that I wrote for Haaretz after Kol Ha'ir and then Ha'ir for almost 14 years. Only in the end of 2017 that I decided that's it, because it took me 14 years to realize that a weekly column comes every week, and that's a very I chose to end that column back then because I thought it's losing I always want my writing to be good and perfect and as much as possible, and I'm disappointed and annoyed when it's not. And it was painful for me to quit writing the column for Haaretz. But again, sorry? Oh, thank you. I might. Now, it seems like I'm going to be academic, so maybe I'll need writing in the newspaper, the extra money. So maybe there is a thought maybe to renew the column. Probably not weekly, because writing a weekly column, I remember my father always, "It's just 800, give me, I will write it this week." I thought, yes, go ahead. "Will you publish it?" "Yes, Dad, please, go ahead, write the column, they'll publish it." He never did. But it's demanding, and but it's fine. I miss it sometimes, I miss that humor, but it was a lot of work. It was hard work for me. Okay. So I started writing for this personal column. And also I thought about humor. As a tool to hook the Israeli reader, yes, and then later the viewer. It was I think in 2004 that I first met, Daniel Paran, the TV Israeli producer, who contacted me and thought about let's translate or bring your column writing to do something, to do a TV show, and it was then when I started working and developing Arab labor. It took me a couple of years to convince, for me and the producer mainly, to convince a broadcasting company in Israel to go for the show. And it was Arab labor. The first season of Arab labor was in 2007. And again, it was very clear for me if I want to bring, for the first time in this case, a Palestinian family to the mainstream living room, the Israeli mainstream living room, it should be very funny. That's going to be the tool, just like the columns. There was the Arab channel, there was the Egyptian movie, and there were funny Arab-speaking TV shows like Matam Abu Rami, Misada Agdullah, the big restaurant that as a kid I loved, I truly loved, admired that show. Now I cannot watch it anymore. And then I watch it, and then actually there were Arabs. One cannot see, the other one is deaf, and the other, I don't know, something like that. They all work in the kitchen, the word Arab or Palestinian, and they have Eli Cohen as their Arab Egyptian originally, the owner of the restaurant that they work in. And we loved it. We thought it's hilarious about it. And the word Arab or Palestinian was never mentioned in that show. So that was the big sitcom before Arab labor. But it was challenging. And again, so I always make this joke, repeat myself all the time. So it was humor because you know, I once heard, if you want to quote someone, you're not sure if that sentence was said or not, you can always blame it on Oscar Wilde and it'll be fine. So as Oscar Wilde once said, if you want to tell people the truth, you should make them laugh, otherwise they will kill you. And then their idea, I was naive enough maybe to think back then that the humor is the weapon of the weak, right? And I thought, okay, I'm the Palestinian, I'm the weak, humor is my weapon. And I was proud, maybe, to think that this is the weapon and that's the way to address the Israeli viewers, yeah? Okay, so I'm gonna share with you the very first scene from Arab labor, the first scene from the pilot. By the way, the pilot, we were told before shooting the pilot that the broadcasting company Kashua were a little bit nervous about Arabic and it can be repulsive for the viewers. I didn't believe that because Israelis are used to watch international shows, and there was the institution of the Egyptian movie every Friday, so I was not worried about it. But it's commercial TV, it's the first time, and I said maybe we should limit the Arabic for 20% in the show, and they thought maybe that's also the percentage of the Palestinian citizens of Israel, usually 20%. I remember talking to the cast, the wonderful cast in Arab labor. Listen, we reached so far, let's do the pilot, because I have a plan how much Hebrew and code switching between Hebrew and Arabic each character would use based on the character's national identity and national views and how much assimilation is there. So this, you will see the balance in Hebrew and Arabic, the ones that can tell the differences. Because my son, he was 3 when we moved, he thinks he's white. I always tell this joke that we are waiting for his bar mitzvah to tell him he's a Muslim. So when we go to visit, I'm sorry, Dad, I cannot tell who's Arab and who's Israeli. Which is great, but it's okay. Anyway, so the first episode, the first season.
גלי צהל, الزفت, תخלي الשוטר ישמע שווית עברית.
אוף, بدي غنى وينتر. כמה שווי, מאמה.
לא רוצה לשמוע אף מילה עכשיו בערבית, בסדר? רק עברית, עברית. ותנסו לחייך. מלמדים אותם לזהות לחץ.
انت الوحيد اللي بلخص يعني.
يعني את תעושה אותי לחץ.
هي كمان بدك תאשים אותי بالبارانويا تبعتك.
התחלת לנתח אותי עכשיו. يا حبيبتي, איך שהשוטר מתקרב, תגידי לו בעברית ככה, בלי מבטא. בוקר טוב, אדוני השוטר. طيب يا حبيبي. ולנסות לחייך, לחייך. בוקר טוב.
صباح الخير يا بوليس.
לשנות בבקשה. פתח את המיטה. כן, למה לא? בכיף. כולו מנהגים. להסביר לי איך זה?
خلاص كل مرة نفس القصة.
איך הם יודעים לעזאזל? איך? אנחנו נראים אחרת? את כל הכסף שלי אני משקיע בקסטרו ובזרה, אני שומע גלי צה"ל. איך הם יודעים לעזאזל? איך? תצחקי את, תצחקי, למה לא? משפט קטן בעברית, בלי מבטא את לא מצליחה להגיד.
خلص ماما خلص حبيبتي. ايش بدك من البنت؟ ايش عملت لك؟ كلهم فح.
Okay. So again, I think that from the very first scene, we can see that that's the story of Amjad for 4 seasons, is trying to assimilate, to pass as Israeli. As his father says, his dream is to become a Jewish Ashkenazi. Actually, in this one of the shows, he's the 3rd season, he joins the Big Brother show in Israel, and the first mission, even before he enters, is to hide his identity as an Arab. And the game there, they tell the participants of the game of the Big Brother, you have to identify who's the Arab in the house. And just Amjad once, of course, they chose the name Daniel Epstein because that was Israel. He was offered the Mizrahi name at the beginning. He said, no, can I have an Epstein, please? And his father, that's his dream. Yes, so his dream is to belong to the Israeli society, especially to the, he says about the Elita Ashkenazit and Rehavia in Jerusalem, yes, in one of the episodes. But of course, he was rejected every single time. So it is humor. It is to hook the viewer with the humor. It is, sadly, the knowledge that I need to humanize the Palestinian character in order to bring it to the Palestinian living room, right? And I was aware of that, but that's the only way. You know, the idea of that we don't have, as Palestinian State of Israel, we don't really have platforms, media platforms or newspaper or TV channels by our own, yes? You can, of course, choose not to participate, but also you can choose to take the risk and challenge it and to try to deliver a different story. And it is not just the humor for the sake of humor or for the entertainment. I take humor very seriously, or at least I took humor very seriously. For me, humor was a tool to tell you a joke maybe about myself, first on my expense, to let you listen to me, ridicule myself, I think, a little bit, based on stereotypes that you might think or know about me or have about me, and then tell you another joke so we can maybe laugh together as equals. And then, but my goal is to tell you a story that might hopefully make you think or even cry. So I was using the tools, and they knew that I knew very well that in the first episodes of Arab labor, you cannot address that. You cannot make lectures against occupation in the primetime commercial Israeli TV, right? And I don't want to do that. That's not my way. But also by Arab labor, and they will show a clip from the episode 8 from the 2nd season of Arab labor, and it's called Independence Day. Bearing in mind there is something in Israel called the Nakba law, yes, that forbidding Arabs, actually not Arabs, any institution cannot get funds from the government if they mention, commemorate or mention the Nakba Day. Nakba Day is the Palestinian catastrophe in 1948, so it's called the Nakba, means catastrophe, yes, the beginning of the Palestinian exodus, Palestinian refugeehood. And in Israel, it's called Independence Day, of course, establishment of the State of Israel, right? So in this episode, Amjad, of course, that his dream is to belong to the Israeli society, of course, just like myself, by the way, sends his daughter to a Jewish school, and she's part from the choir in the school. And before Memorial Day, it's the day before the Independence Day in Israel. You have the Memorial Day, and followed by the Independence Day, her lovely music teacher tells her that she cannot participate in the event because it's Memorial Day, and the kid is very, very sad about it because she wants to sing with her friends. So in this episode, we took probably one of the most known Shira Reut, famous about the fallen Israeli soldiers in 1948. And we gave it a completely different meaning, implanting there the Palestinian Nakba and the Palestinian story, that it's completely erased from the Israeli education system and from the Israeli narrative. Okay, so the last episodes, again, it begins also with a lot of humor, but we will watch a very short clip from the Independence Day, and it's about how does Palestinian citizen of Israel feels in national days in Israel. Yes, the flags with the David Star, the anthem with mentioning only Jewish soul and Jewish diaspora of 20, our hope for Israelis, not mentioning any other citizenship in a Jewish and democratic well, anyway, Jewish and democratic. A very good definition by Jewish democratic was by Ahmad Tibi. Of course it's Jewish and democratic. It's democratic for the Jews and Jewish for the Arab, which is a wonderful description. It's absolutely true. We can also discuss all the fight about democracy that taking place. It's very painful taking place here. The Palestinians are shocked. What democracy? Let's see what's going to happen. But that's also the problem. Can we really talk about democracy if we include not only the Arab citizens of Israel, but the Palestinian citizens, the occupied territory that controlled by the Israelis? Can we really talk about democracy and occupation together? Still, I'm very much with the protests in Israel, of course, and support the protest movement of Israel if you are following the news from there. So this is from Independence Day Arab Labor, Season 2.
شايفي هون؟ هاي أنا. هون أنا كنت أصغر منك. هذا بيت أمي وأبوي. هون أنا خلقت.
هدول البقرات إلكو؟ طب وين راحوا؟
شوي شوي عم أهلك. خليني أحكي لك القصة من الأول. كان يا مكان في قرية صغيرة.
לא מעניין אותי הרגשות שלך, אמצ'אד. מעניין אותי העיתון. אם שמו של העיתון לא יופיע ערב בטקס, אתה מפוטר.
מפוטר.
את הרוח עובר על הזר, עננים מהלכים על הדרך. כבר שנה לא הרגשנו כמעט איך עברו הזמנים בשדותינו. כבר שנה ונותרנו מעט מהרבים שאינם כבר בינינו, אך נזכור את כולם, את יפי הבלורית והתואר, כי רעות שכזאת לעולם לא תיתן את ליבנו לשכוח. אהבה מקודשת בדם, את תשובי בינינו לפרוח.
Okay, so I don't know if you're familiar, if there are Israelis here, but this is one of the most known, memorial, sad songs about the fallen Israelis. And completely, if there's something that I studied in academy about defamiliarization and estrangement, this is this. Or even deterritorialization of the concept from the Israeli concept and giving it a completely different meaning, a Palestinian one with photos from the pre-Nakba, photos about the grandmother telling her daughter a different story. And it was accepted very wonderfully. I think after this episode, all the daily newspaper in Israel just complimented the powerful episode. But again, after 4 successful seasons, one of the things I believe that I'm one of my, after Najat, my wife, I'm the harshest critic of myself, I think. I don't need the newspapers because it is a problem. What am I doing here with my columns and with my TV entertainment? Because it is about humor. Is it comforting the Israeli liberal reader in Haaretz or the viewer about the situation? We are talking here about people occupied in the West Bank, and is humor really legitimate? And what happens with the idea of the humor is the weapon of the weak? And then at that point, I realized that, oh my God, it's a double-edged sword. The humor is the weapon of the weak. It also that I accept the position of the weak, and it puts me always in an inferior position when it comes to the Israeli majority. Again, I'm so sorry that I'm generalizing. You have to understand that my best and wonderful friends and partners in my shows and in my writings are Jewish Israelis, yes. It's horrible that I need to always generalize, but that's the situation. So yes, so without my Israeli Jewish producer, director, and wonderful actors, and that will never happen, right? So that was followed by I think the writer. I love the writer. I had to write 4 successful writing-wise seasons of Arab labor and being described. I'm always described like the Seinfeld of Israel or the Larry. I'm always compared to another Jewish writer in America, the Palestinian Larry David, which I like because people cannot accept the fact that he's Arab. No, we have to relate. Even Edgar Keret once said, which I like, said Kashua is the last Jewish writer in Israel about that column. It's fine. I'm not Jewish yet. I did my best. Still try. My kids, though, no, I'm just kidding. And then it was the writer, and it's about a comedian, actually, the writer. It's called Katib. No, actually, it's called the Screenwriter, but the protagonist name, the main character name is Katib, which there's no name in Arabic. Katib means the writer in Arabic. I was too lazy to give him a name, so I called him writer. And it's about an Arab comedy writer who can no longer afford comedy. And actually, in the first season, the first episode, it takes place in the Academy Awards. Arab Labor won. I think I won 3 times the screenplay and the best TV show in Israel, and that he decides that he can no longer afford writing humor. So it's 10 episodes about and you will see. The actor is, you saw it already with the first. He's very handsome. He's supposed to be me. That was my only. I truly wanted someone. Anyway, that was my demand. Yeah, it should be a handsome player. So, and in the writer, I'm actually going to play a clip from. Not this. Yeah, from the writer, a clip from the 7th episode 7. Out of 10, and the writer, Israeli writer, actually with his book, is invited to a writers' festival in Lucera in Italy. It's based on a true festival. They have a Mediterranean literary event, and he's invited there, and he meets his Arab colleagues, Palestinians, but also the Israeli attaché and the translator. The Israeli cultural attaché, yes, from the embassy is waiting for him with Israeli translator because he writes in Hebrew. But also there's the translator, Yasmin. She's translating from the Arabic, and he's confronting that all the people there are the participants, the writers are Arabs from Syria, Morocco, Ramallah, and there's the embassy there is waiting for him, and the signs in Italy says the Israeli writer, and he goes and he erases the Israeli, so the Palestinian writer or the Palestinian Israel writer, and we're going to watch the very end of this confrontation of identity, and also discusses a little bit the difficulties of language. So the very last 2 minutes from episode 7 of the writer.
احنا من نفس الحضارة تقريبا.
انت صوتك
تسلم شكرا. أثرت شوي. كيف حسيت؟
البيرة بدها حمام. ياسمينة الترجمة كانت رائعة.
شكرا كثير. اسمعوا، عندي خبر كثير مهم أقرأ لكم إياه. إن هذا الكاتب هو عبد خادم لأسياده، ينظف ضمائرهم ويكتب ما يطيب لأذانهم. هذا الكاتب الذي تخلى عن لغته الأم واعتنق لغتهم، لغة العدو المحتل الذي يغتصب يوميا ثقافته وهويته. إن ما يمثله الكاتب بأسرلته لخطر كبير على شبابنا المتمسك بكرامته بهويته وبوطنيته.
بكفي ياسمين، خلص.
شو عرفك أي صحفي موجود محبط عم بزاود ضيق الأفق؟ مش ناقصنا، ما أنت عارفة.
تعرفي شو، عن جد ممكن يكون هذا الصحفي بالغ، بس عندي سؤال واحد أوجهه لكاتب. أنت فلسطيني ولا إسرائيلي؟
بكفي ياسمين،
انت ما بتفهم قديش المساله معقده بالنسبه لفلسطينيه 48. انت ما بتعرف الوضع هناك. خلاص.
سؤال بسيط، عربي ولا اسرائيلي؟
أنا ما اخترت، بس أنا عربي فلسطيني ساكن بدولة إسرائيل.
دولة اسرائيل كتير حلو. وقول له وحياتك دولتك هاي بنظرك هي دولة شرعية؟
هاي الدولة بتعمل كتير أشياء غير
قول ليش
شرعية.
بتعمل وبتعملش؟ جاوبني. الدولة هاي إلها حق الوجود؟
أنا بقرأ كتير أشياء من حكومة كيف تتصرف
إلها حق الوجود ولا لا؟ جاوبني. سهل الموضوع، ليش بتجاوبش؟
ياسمين بكفي خلص.
حلو هيك يعني. بتأمل انك ما زعلتش من ياسمين. هي دايما هيك. اللي اعرفها سنين، التقينا عدة مرات برام الله.
احنا هيك شعب بدل ما يهتم بالمهمة مشغول بإلقاء التهم والتخوين.
اوعى تزعل. ياسمين بتحكي مثل رجال الجبهة الشعبية من سنوات ال60. بس انت بتعرف خلقت بشتيلة وابوها
Allora, adesso il scrittore ci legge un po' del suo libro, prima in lingua originale e poi in italiano. Prego.
היום בירה. חשבתי בליבי ואיבדתי סביב. היום אני רוצה להיות כמוהם. היום אני רוצה להיות חלק מהם. להיכנס למקומות שאליהם הם מורשים להיכנס. לצחוק כמו שהם צוחקים. לשתות בלי לעשות חשבון לאלוהים. אני רוצה להיות כמוהם. משוחררים, חולמים, מסוגלים לחשוב על אהבה. כמוהם. כמו אלה שהתחילו למלא את הרחבה מתוך ידיעה שהיא שלהם. שלא הרגישו צורך להתנצל על קיומם. שלא הרגישו שעליהם להסתיר את זהותם. כמוהם. בלי מבחני נאמנות. בלי מבחני קבלה, בלי פחד ממבטים חשדניים. היום אני רוצה להיות חלק מהם בלי להרגיש שאני עובר עבירה. אני רוצה לשתות איתם, לרקוד איתם, בלי המסע הכבד של המסתנן לתרבות זרה. להרגיש שייך בלי להרגיש אשם או בוגד. ובמה אני בוגד בדיוק?
Ma come puoi scrivere nella loro lingua?
Scusa, sarà tempo per domande dal pubblico.
Come puoi ancora solo pronunciare una sola parola in quella lingua di chi ti ha privato di tutto? Ti ha esiliato, massacrato, torturato, occupando ancora oggi la tua terra. Gli ebrei tedeschi non riescono ancora a parlare nella loro madrelingua. E invece tu hai adottato la lingua dei tuoi assassini. Come lo spieghi? Rispondimi per favore.
Per favore, andiamo avanti con il programma per oggi. Sarà tempo per domande.
Excuse me, this is outrageous. We have never invented war. Our hand is held out in peace. People like the screenwriter put two people together, as opposed to you whose lies only instigate war. Thank you.
Sorry. Okay, so actually I left, that we started shooting, actually they were also shooting, but we started shooting in June, the end of June, Madrasa, and it was a horrible week, not week, sorry, a horrible summer of 2014. Actually the last episode of not Madrasa, The Writer, was at one point, the writer, his producer, he cannot write anything but about Arabs. And at one point they offer him to do, did you see the Seinfeld comedians in cars drinking coffee? We have this concept of politicians in cars drinking coffee. So, you know, and then he's doing that, and actually it was Avigdor Lieberman that he's speaking in his car. But because of the war, he canceled his participation in the shoot in the same day of shooting. And for Israel, it's limited money. We didn't really shoot in Italy. We had half a day in Italy, like a cameraman and director that was shot the whole Italian thing in Ain Karim, in Jerusalem, right? So it's always a small budget. And I remember that the last day that before we moved, we decided to leave Israel. I changed the script because this politician didn't come, and I changed the whole script to make it I'm the writer leaving. And actually they drive me to the airport, July 14th. So yes. So it was funny because I converted the script on the same day, and the director, a good friend of mine, said, is that going to work? I said, let's hope. They call it postmodern. And it worked, actually. It worked. So I'm there, and they drive me with this antique car. It was so hot on July 14th, and the news and the sirens, and there was a war in Gaza. But it was then that I completely lost hope. It was very traumatic. And actually, when I left, A Borrowed Identity, they changed the title. It was called Dancing Arabs. The movie was supposed to be the opening ceremony of the Jerusalem Film Festival that week, but the producer decided that Dancing Arabs or having Arabs in the title would be too much, so they changed the title of the movie without even consulting me with A Borrowed Identity. And I think my column in Haaretz was very much popular. I was just finishing editing the story of Shtisel. I don't know if you're familiar with Shtisel because it was also on Netflix. When I moved, I have madrasa just shooting, and I just left it all behind and went for 1 year to teach at Urbana-Champaign. It was very generous. But when I moved, they said I'm not coming back, and they wrote a column in Haaretz about moving for good because I cannot continue to lie to my kids that one day they will be equal. And so we moved to Urbana-Champaign. I wish we looked at the map before we moved to Urbana-Champaign. I remember we landed in Chicago, and it was 3 hours of, I remember when the first cornfield after Chicago said, look, cornfield. And then I didn't know that it's going to be the same cornfield all the way for 4 years. But the University of Illinois were so generous, and I love them so much. It was a wonderful community. But it was painful, and it was really just moving and leaving all behind. So somehow the writer and this idea, what am I doing here, and the language, and questioning all my writing, and maybe switching it and taking some break to focus in academy, to examine exactly the possibilities of resistance in culture and popular culture. So I'm glad that I studied for master's degree first and then Ph.D. to come to a conclusion that I learned absolutely nothing, and the only thing that I can do is writing. So I was very happy. I recovered a little bit and then wrote actually Madrasa 20 episodes that I wrote originally for the educational channel in Israel, but it was picked up by the public channel, Channel 1 in Israel, Kan, and also the Arabic channel. But it was written for kids. And it's about the bilingual school in Jerusalem. It's Arab and Israeli, it's a greenhouse, a very special school that my kids used to attend. And actually in 2014 it was burned, the school, by extreme Israeli right-wing group. So I wrote this bilingual. I was very happy. Again, without the support of the broadcaster, the executives in the Israeli public television and the educational channel and the producer and my wonderful director in this case, it was Guri Alfi, and the wonderful cast, it would never happen. So it is about the bilingual school, and I'm going to share a very small clip. So it is the Israelis, maybe not in this clip, but the Israelis will speak in Arabic and the Hebrew, and the Jewish Israelis will speak, and the Arabs will speak Hebrew and Arabic, and the whole thing is almost 50-50, and the code switch, and really it was trying to find a common language, literally a common language, that Hebrew and Arabic flow together. It didn't always work well, mainly because because the Jewish actors did not speak, unlike the Palestinian Arab actors speak fluently Hebrew, but that was the goal, to create a completely different language. But actually the clip that we're gonna, so it was broadcasted, actually premiered January 1st, 2023 in Israel. It was very well received critically, I believe. More grown-ups watched it than kids. And they ordered, a second season was ordered by the educational channel in Israel. So a small clip with the parents of Khaled. He joins the school. He's a new student for the bilingual school. And Shira, she's the Israeli. They meet and there's some kind of, they're interested in one another. And it's the first time that they're babysitting their younger kids, while their parents, the parents of Khaled and parents of Shira, meet for the very first time for dinner to get to know each other better, okay? So a clip from episode 5 or 6, I'm not sure. From Madrasa, it's 20 episodes.
ח'אלד בחור מהמם, באמת. אני קצת חוששת שהם עלולים להיפגע.
להיפגע ממה? חסר שו חכינה. ממה יש להם להיפגע, דורית?
ממה, ריאם, באמת. עם כל הכבוד לדעות שלנו פה, אנחנו... בואו לא נשכח באיזה מציאות פוליטית אנחנו חיים.
יש עוד סכין?
בואי. בגיל הזה את רוצה לצאת עם החבר שלך? את רוצה שיכיר את המשפחה, את יולים, זה חגים, זה כבר לא הבועה הזאת של בית ספר.
וזה יבייש אותך? אם הבת שלך מציגה בפני המשפחה בחור ערבי?
לא יבייש, לא, אבל באמת, ח'אלד הוא מותק של בחור.
כן, מותק שהיא מבייש את הילדה שלך, הבנתי.
לא, חבר'ה, אתם לא חושבים שאתם מגזימים קצת?
לגמרי, נו, זה סך הכל ילדים בתיכון.
תודה.
ומה יהיה אחרי תיכון?
לכי תדעי, אלוהים גדול אחרי תיכון. שירה בטח תלך לצבא. אני לא יודע מה התוכניות של ח'אלד, בטח מה, אוניברסיטה, אני מתאר לעצמי.
הבנתי. אז כל עוד זה בתיכון, בתור משחק ילדים זה סבבה, כי זה הולך להסתיים.
אני רק מתאר לעצמי. מה, כמה חברויות ממשיכות אחרי תיכון?
ומה אם אחרי התיכון הבת שלך תבוא ותגיד לך, יש לי חבר ערבי, או רוצה להתחתן עם בחור ערבי, מה תגיד?
לא יודע, אני לא באמת חשבתי על זה. לא לעומק, לא התעמקתי במה יהיה אחר כך.
כן, ריאם, זאת תהיה בעיה, אוקיי? למה להתאמם? אנחנו לא חיים בעולם אידיאלי, מצב מורכב ומסובך, ולא צריך לעשות אותו עוד יותר קשה ועוד יותר מסובך. מה לעשות?
אני לא מבינה, למה את שולחת את הילדה שלך ללמוד בבית ספר מעורב אם זה מבייש אותך שיש לך חבר ערבי?
אוקיי, אז אני עכשיו אשמה שאני שולחת את הבת שלי כדי לחנך אותה על ערכים של דו-קיום.
עד גבול מסוים הדו-קיום שלך, נכון?
אני לא... חבר'ה, למה להרוס יין כזה טוב?
יום
הולדת שלה, ויום שלי לחיים.
יין מצוין.
כן, ריאן, אני דואגת לילדה שלי, בסדר? אני דואגת ואני מפחדת שהיא תיפגע.
מעולה, וגם אני דואגת לילד שלי, ולא רוצה שהוא יסתובב עם אנשים שעלולים לפגוע.
סליחה.
ח'אלד.
מה?
אתה מוכן בבקשה להירגע?
אני אנסה.
כי זה מלחיץ אותי.
סליחה.
אבל מה אני רוצה לסמוי?
يلا شوي بنكون جاهز.
ما أكيد. אני לא אשכח.
Okay, maybe it's not for kids, but it's okay. Very special kid. Actually, it is very educational. Oh my God. Wonderful teamwork. We had a lot of negotiations with an episode called The Partition Plan. Oh my. It was like, okay, we need to have an urgent meeting. Like, I felt like Benjamin Netanyahu was invited to that meeting. And it ended up with one sentence they did not let me use there. Actually taken from Mishpat Shlomo, with the two mothers, yes. So it's, you know, the sentence was... Anyway, so because the Palestinians say that the Palestinians did not accept the partition plan because we are just like the real mother who refused for the partition, and that's it. No, I'm not gonna use that. Not in this TV show. I said, but it's okay. Absolutely, it's challenging, I know. Anyone who's familiar with the limits of the discourse in Israel will know that it was some kind of achievement, and I have to say all people, executives and people who worked on it were completely into it. They wanted the message and they wanted the show, and they still want it. So that was a very nice work experience. Sometimes you need to negotiate. I'm not naive. I know the limits of what can be discussed in an educational channel or in Israeli media. The question to take it or not, that's a very big question. And in this case, I truly wanted to write about very sad, sometimes frustrating situation. And some people, critics, wrote that the most optimistic thing you can watch is Madrasa by Said Kashua. Others said that actually they read Madrasa as there's no hope and that the bilingual school is an illusion. But yes, I was in Madrasa. I don't have any rational reason to think that it's going to be the future is going to be bright or anything like that, not at all. But at least the minimum as a writer, not that it's going to mean anything, but to offer a different imagined a political possibility or reality, a little bit, at least to offer it and to suggest it and let it be there and make people, in this case mainly kids, maybe not, to have that option, to have that offer, and maybe to reflect or put a mirror into some of the viewers. Actually, I was happy it was very much welcomed by many Arab viewers, because also it was in the still Israeli public channel 33, Makan it's called now, sorry. There was a revolution in the public TV in Israel, and it might be closed very soon. Actually, one of the plans of the government is to shut down the public TV in Israel, media. We'll see. So yeah, so it took me some while, and it's challenging how to offer some hope by Madrasa. I believe it's 3, so maybe if you have, sorry, Shtisel we discussed. I was just the story editor in Shtisel 2, season 2 and 3. The books. Yeah, I'm also an author. I actually hope that very soon I go back to write a book. What else? A Borrowed Identity, that was the movie based on the first. I wrote the script for that. It's a so-so movie. Let It Be Morning actually was by Eran Kulirin. I did not write the script. I refused after the experience and it's so different, nothing to do with it's somehow inspired by the book, but nothing to do with the book. But still, I loved that show. It was scary because it's an Israeli director, but it was. I love it's like an art house movie, and it's truly very barely Orientalist, so it's okay. In that sense, no, it's a wonderful movie. It's an art house, but if you watch the movie, you should remember that it's Eran Kulirin's movie. It's not my work. Again, I loved it. That's it, I think. If you have any questions.
So thank you again to all the students and guests that came here. Thank you, Said. We have some questions from the chat, and we'll have some questions from the room, but if it's okay, I want to start something with your move, because you finished with your move here in 2014. Yes. And I read something you write, and you described it as a hard choice, and I quote, between forced exile in the heart of my homeland or to live in voluntary exile as a resident alien. Either way, to be a stranger in a strange land. You wrote that. So you've been here already like 9 years? Is it 8 years?
Yes, almost 9 years.
Okay, so how is the strangehood here in the US?
Oh, it's perfect. I love it. The first years, I think it was very tough. I mean, yes, scary. and you know, and also this feeling of instability at the beginning with the kids and responsibility. You know, it was a visa for 1 year and then renew it again and again. You never know what's going to happen next. So yes, it was not easy, but and sometimes the political climate also is very difficult and tough. And honestly, also sometimes I miss being, you know, the person that I used to be. I missed a little bit being the celebrity, and not celebrity, you know, because I worked so hard to be offer free vodka shots almost in all bars in Jerusalem, and now I have to pay for everything. No, I'm just kidding. So yes, I mean, no, I don't. I miss that. I'm not sure if I miss that much, but it's, you know, the language and being a foreigner and foreigner. I don't know. I have no idea. And but the thing is that I don't take. I still like I'm looking from the outside. I think, you know, I'm not emotionally involved yet. I learned the lesson, so I keep some distance. Of course, it is very painful to read. I mean, sorry, we're still waiting for our papers, and so I'm so happy to be in the States. I think the democracy here is just great, and the equality, especially the equality. No, I'm just kidding. So it is painful, but there is a distance, and so I always make this joke that they always ask me, you know, where are you from? And I remember once I was late to class. I was coming back from Chicago, and I was late 5 minutes to my class in Urbana-Champaign, and I asked Najat, my wife, to go to the class and just play something. You know, it's creative writing, no one cares. Just play something in there and tell them that I'll be there in 5 minutes. And when I arrived to the class, the student said, who's that lady who come here because you have the same accent? I said, I have an accent? So anyway, so that was a joke. It's okay. So it's the accent, and my kids telling me about the accent and the language and everything. But I always make this joke that when and everyone, where are you from? Where are you from? Where? My kids, I see them, we're from Missouri. You know, like, no, you're not.
Missouri.
Missouri, yeah.
Missouri.
Yeah.
That's how they think.
And they feel furious. And I always, the joke was when I told my kids, we are not familiar, you know, the American politics. If someone asks you where you're from, don't give up immediately your give your identity immediately. Don't say I'm a Palestinian or Israeli, because we don't know who are you confronting or who has. Say from Jerusalem, and based on their reaction, you'll discover if it's East Jerusalem and West Jerusalem. So I remember I always use that joke when I went to register my kids to public schools in Champaign. And the lady came, said, and I was like, oh, there's a race. They was looking for Arabs, no Arabs. I said, what happened to the Arabs? There's no category. It was like Asian, African American, white. And then I said, okay, there's no Arabs and maybe Jews. My kids, back then they had no idea. Hanukkah was their favorite holiday still. So I was looking for no Jews, and they raised my hand. And, yes, sir, how can I help you? I said, I'm not sure what is my race. And she said, where are you from? And I said, Jerusalem, giving my kids like the look, look and learn. And said, oh, you're white, sir. I was so happy. I started liking something. I signed white. And it's the first time that I started to respect my kids, listen to their complaints, and you know, I'm just kidding. So it's confusing. So, but the joke is that when I'm asked where you're from, but based on my accent, I would say Albania, based on the fact that no one knows what Albanian looks like. It's European enough, you don't know, but you don't have a political opinion on Albania. Well, it happened to me that one of students, I'm Albanian, I said, me too. I do have an Albanian flag. I support the Albanian soccer team, they're doing very bad. And always when I'm asked, yeah, I'm Albanian and I'm leaving back home on Thursday. It's always my flight. I'm just a tourist here. I'm not threatening anyone's position or work. I let the kids to deal with it. It is strange that my kids, it's Ramadan, by the way, and my grown-up kids, they do fast. And I was surprised because I guess they are treated as or by their and peers, yes, in high school, in schools, or in university as the Muslims. While we used to be in Jerusalem, it was enough to be the Palestinian. That was our otherness. I guess here it's being Muslims. I remember when we first met with the parent-teacher meeting, and he told us about back then my son was in 4th grade, that he's doing very well socially, and every noon he goes to pray with his friends. I said, to what God exactly? We were completely shocked. But it is Ramadan, and we respect that. We do have the dinner, and they have their things, and I don't know. I mean, so probably. So what I'm trying to say, I'm not sure how the kids, they're happy. I mean, they have a lot of friends, and they're doing well, but they are the Muslims in America. And I guess that's the power of, interpretation, how it's called.
Interpretation. So I have a question here from the chat, and then we'll go to the audience. Is that okay? Do you feel like you have to tone down your identity to connect with the Israeli audience?
I don't. The question is, what do you mean by my identity?
That's a good question.
Yes. I think that there are things that, I mean, I wish that I have some hope. It's not by chance that I left, yes, because it's and again, what is identity, and what can be considered in Israel to be calling for incitement, and what can be called racism, and what can be called a legitimate call for equality. So yes, I think. I mean, again, as I said, you cannot really do lectures against occupation in primetime commercial TV. You have to find a different language. Surely not in the Israeli media. I mean, I truly, this is me. I'm trying to be honest about my dilemmas, about my conflicts, about this identity, let's call it. I don't like that much identity crisis. People would like to say, oh, the identity crisis of being Palestinian. Yes, it is a crisis. If it was not too sad to be a Palestinian citizen of Israel, it would have been hilarious. But it is tragic reality. And if I it depends. I mean, I don't think it's only me. I think it depends on the genre and on the platform. For Haaretz, I will write differently, imagining the liberal, supposedly left-wing Israeli liberal, still Zionist most of the time, reader. For the commercial TV, yes, I know who's watching the commercial TV, so I have to tune it differently. In novels, probably I would, yes, romantically would think that I don't think about the readers, which is also nonsense. Of course, there's always someone. It depends if it's the Israeli reader or the international reader or the Arab reader. Yes. So yes, I think that there is something also that I'm dealing with in affect theory, that you will read the mood or you imagine the mood of the reader, and you tune yourself and your writing and the mood of your writing to meet the expectations of what you think the climate, the mood, the structure of feeling among the audience or the imagined or the implied reader. So yes, of course, it doesn't need to be Israeli. It's whoever you're addressing, you should tune yourself consciously or unconsciously.
Are you planning on addressing the American audience? It's still just the audience in Israel.
I am working. Yes, I'm in a very advanced development project with HBO, and led by Rob Naming with David Simon. I received an email from him like, my name is David Simon. I'm looking for a partner. I remember my reply was, dear David, yes, thanks. And it was a great honor, and I learned a lot from the way it works. So I very much hope we just delivered. It's like advanced development. So we wrote 2 episodes from and the Bible for a limited TV show dealing with the very complicated relationship between FBI and Muslim community. It's based on true story, so it took me a year of research taking place in Dallas, so that's one. So yeah, hopefully I'm addressing the American. And once in a while I write a column here and there, as the one that you mentioned, for some newspapers, yes, and especially the students.
Questions from the audience here? Yes. If you can just stand up and also introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Danny. I'm a freshman here at Suffolk. I'm in Michal's class, Professor Michal's class.
Give him a...
Yeah. So, what? Sorry.
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Anyway, so I wanted to ask about 2014. What specifically about 2014, and what happened made you realize that it was time to move? And like you said, the equality, like what you told your kids about equality, and then how did that change your work after you moved here?
I think it was not something that happened in 2015. Some things did happen in 2014, yeah. But it was, if you even follow, not you, it's not like a homework for Michal's class, but the frustration, the political situation in Israel that I think, or Israel-Palestine, yes, as a journalist from October 2000, it's just going darker and darker, and the political powers in Israel, there's no surprise about what's happening here. Yes, the power that this messianic settlement movement was gaining in Israel. And of course, from the other hand, yes, but I don't want to criticize Palestinians' politics right here. But of course, the internal Palestinian conflict between Hamas and Fatah and the corruption in the Palestinian Authority. Yes, I'm not a huge fan of that as well. But I lived in Jerusalem. And as someone truly, I was always like, oh, he's bridging between communities. Actually, I was thinking that I'm digging tunnels between communities and cultures rather than building bridges. I hate bridges. I'm scared of bridges. That's why I never leave St. Louis, because I don't like to cross the Mississippi on the bridge. No, so it was a process. But in 2014, three teenage settlers were kidnapped by Palestinians, and you see how Benjamin Netanyahu back then, the build-up towards this war. And they found the body after a week that the Israeli society were completely ready for any kind of revenge. And I remember the day that I wrote my column, and I decided to leave as soon as I can get tickets, was when a Palestinian teenager was kidnapped and killed and burned alive from East Jerusalem by Israeli group. Actually, a wonderful TV show about what happened in 2014, Our Boys. Yeah. By Chagai Levi. Chagai Levi
Netflix, right?
was the head of drama when Arab labor was accepted in Keshet. So it's I am Yossi Sider, my friend, and Tawfiq Abu Wael created this Our Boys, completely very recommended. It's a wonderful TV show in HBO. And I wrote some things in the newspaper because the revenge and people marching in the streets of Jerusalem calling, kill the Arabs. My kids were there. My kids were in the bilingual school. My daughter actually was in the Liada school. She was in a summer camp, I don't know where, with Madatsim all the day singing Tikva or whatever. I lived in Western Jerusalem, meaning a Jewish neighborhood. And everything just collapsed. And of course, because being a Palestinian, and some things that they wrote and they said was immediately another Arab, and my name was mentioned all over the radios and the newspapers, completely falsely accusing me of supporting the Hamas kidnapping or whatever, because they were looking for enemies. So any known Palestinian or Arab who dared to suggest a different reality would be the traitor. But also it's this lie, it's this frustration. I always rejected, why do you live there? Why you live here? I was not naive, but I rejected the idea of this binarism, segregation between Palestinians and Israelis. I was not naive again, but I completely rejected all this ideologies of segregation and rules, and this is your true house, and you shouldn't live here, and that is not natural you. I was thinking, the basics of democracy. You can live wherever you want if you're a citizen and whatever. So it was too much for me, really. It's not only for me. I think I was privileged, but many Israelis back then in 2014, and especially Arabs, it was too much. And it was like, it's not like it happened at once, yeah, it wasn't a surprise again. It was a process of frustration, accumulation of frustration, and it is painful because I thought, no one cares about my fight, yes, but the little fight. But back then I felt that I lost the small battle, yes, that I'm fighting through media and journalism, and it's not an easy thing. I was always, I believe, politically involved. I had a mission, and then it was to give up, escapism, for the sake of creating a better future for my kids, mainly. For me, it's escapism. It was, leaving everything behind, as one of my neighbors mentioned that later, actually, for a newspaper, that he left with Imaserim Lagaz, with the pots on the. It's something that they talk about. Yeah. So it was leaving. We didn't rent the house. I didn't even any movings. Just bought the tickets and that's it. Scary times. I remember I was just crying for weeks, and of course, even after we decided to move, started also the war on Gaza, and that was even more terrifying, justifying the move. So yes, it was not out of joy. It was escapism, which is not a pleasant situation to be in. And I have to say that the American again, generalizing, University of Illinois, WashU, and now I was welcomed with a lot of generosity. I meet wonderful people. Maybe I'm lucky, I don't know, but it's more diverse academic world that I'm in since I moved, but I was completely welcomed, and me and my, I hope also my family. So it's not like, oh, I'm not my wife's daughter. My wife's dissertation was about trauma and motherhood among war refugees, and she worked with refugees from Syria, right? So when I used the word, oh, it was traumatic when we moved, shut up. You're one of the most privileged people that I know. Don't ever use the word trauma because you don't know what that means. So I don't use the word trauma because I know that I am very privileged, I guess. So I cannot, I immigrated as a refugee to the, no, I immigrated as a visiting professor at the University of Illinois. Yes, so it's completely different. But because of Najat, there are a lot of things that sometimes I was depressed. Shut up, don't use that word again. So I don't use depression or traumatic. So I understand, it's not this kind of refugeehood, yes, it's exile by choice, completely.
Privileged refugee.
Yes.
Yeah. Shoshi, do you have a question, please? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Shoshana, to those of you who don't know me. So I actually was thinking about when you asked the question, because I thought that I read somewhere that you had said you detailed this event as kind of the catalyst that made you leave in 2014. And I'm thinking about the show Our Boys and about your biography and about why I left Israel. I left Israel a long time ago in '96. And on the screen, from a narrative standpoint, they presented the detective who was Mizrahi as basically once you reached a certain point of realization of reality, and there is no other choice but to leave. And I know that you described it, and I felt it myself, that I had to leave. And I'm wondering, what did that do to you? Because I know that at least for me, being Mizrahit in Israel and being connected to the Arab roots of my family who is Jewish, to those of you who are confused by these definitions, my family is from Yemen, and I grew up in a family that spoke Arabic, but we are Jewish. So to me, all these years of being here, which is now, I can't believe, almost, it's going to be 30 years soon, it gave me some freedom to connect to my Arab culture in a way that I couldn't do in Israel, because Israel is presenting me with only two possibilities, being Jewish or being Arab, but not being both. So to me, that's what it did. That's what it did, and I'm wondering what did you gain from the almost decade? that you're here. Yeah.
Very similar question from the chat. So yeah, well, in terms of
Well,
what's your identity?
If Israel gave me the option of Jewish or Arab, I'll take the Jewish every single time. I'm just kidding. It was not an option for me. I'm just kidding. No, I understand, and I think that it's not the right platform, of course, and we don't have the time to dig into the tragic history. It's very, again, yes, exactly. So the Arabs were not the very traumatic experience of the Jews coming from Arab and Muslim countries, and yes, you have to reject and hate your Arabness in order to belong, and yeah, it's a very much Orientalist and very much superior, even colonialist approach towards also the Mizrahim, according to Ella Shochat and many other scholars. Of course, but sadly, the Arabs, Palestinian Arabs and the Israeli Jews, as we once hoped, I think, even my father, I remember I served Charlie Beaton a lot of coffee and Coca-Cola in our house in Tira. Charlie Beaton was an activist in the Black Panthers, yes. So that's not the reality, and today, sadly, it is like, and many people, as I said yesterday, think that Benjamin Netanyahu is from Morocco. He is not, and not even Begin. And it is very sad, and I hope they're wonderful, of course. Again, yes, it is a sad reality, but I always thought that if there's any hope, it would be with the Mizrahi and the Palestinians coming to a mutual and common understanding. Not against the Ashkenazis, not in that, but that's so necessary and it's needed, and but that's the ideology. That's the ideology of rejecting your identity in the name of the melting pot. Yes, supposedly, and then you have if you don't want to be the enemy, you have to get rid of your Arabness.
So does like Shoshi, you feel more freedom here to be Palestinian?
No.
No.
I mean, I feel more freedom. I can connect with more Palestinians or Arabs that I meet, like my friend from Syria. It's easier for me to connect with people from the Arab world here. And when I speak Arabic with them here, it's a different feeling.
Yeah, I don't.
Without the Zionist background.
I understand. Yes, I completely understand. No, it's a different experience because I was Arab and I'm Palestinian, and I didn't have that. I didn't need to hide anything like that. I was writing about it. When it comes, to meeting, what are countries that we are supposed to meet? Like,
where?
I think as citizens of Israel, we're not supposed to. Syrians, we're allowed
Malaysian?
to meet Syrians.
I don't think so.
Because like foreign agents, it can become no. So no, but I mean, one of the things that I find fascinating here, it is meeting Egyptian scholars and Lebanese and Jordanians and Palestinians from different backgrounds. Of course, that's something that of course we never experienced as Palestinians in Israel.
We have a question here in the back, and then we're going to move to our virtual audience. We have some questions in the Q&A box.
I'm Paraska from the history department. I have a question. So it's funny, I was just showing the Battle of Algiers to my student yesterday, and I was thinking of that scene where the women pass the checkpoint and they change, I don't know if you've seen the movie, they change their hair to look French. And there's a similar scene here at the checkpoint where the man is trying to figure out how to look Israeli, and then he's like, how do they always recognize me? And I was thinking of a lot of everything's bilingual, right? But there's really this big power dynamic between the two languages. And in the show Madrasa, for example, all the people, when they're speaking together, they always speak Hebrew, right? So I'm just curious, I guess on a very sort of basic level, I'm curious how many Israelis actually speak Arabic, and how many of the parents of the children at Madrasa speak Arabic? How many of the students actually speak Arabic? Because you talk about it as a bilingual school, or is it just always the Arabs that are bilingual and the Israelis are monolingual?
That's a very good question. The problem is that, yes, when it comes to the Palestinians, Arab citizens of Israel, yes, they are very much bilingual, including the parents, but it was that's a very big challenge. I truly wanted to recruit actors from the bilingual school or from Neve Shalom, that it will be natural. But if I'm not wrong, sadly, only one Israeli, Maor, who speaks fluent Arabic, and also Noam Schuster plays a part. But it was difficult because also you need some acting abilities with the Israelis. But that was the goal. Yeah, I know acting is over. No, I'm just kidding. And so that was a little bit of a challenge. But actually, this I said the clip because the parents do not speak Hebrew, and also knowing. So if you check, if it might be 50-50, I think, because in the school the Arab teacher only speaks Hebrew and the Israeli teacher only speaks, the Arab teacher only speaks Arabic and the Hebrew only Hebrew. So probably in the show, in total, it will be 50-50, Arabic and Hebrew. In this scene, as I explained, it's a little bit different. But honestly, always, in the bilingual school in Jerusalem, in reality, if there is one Jewish, Israeli, Hebrew-speaking kid, the whole other group of 10 Arabs will switch to Hebrew. But it's fine with us because actually we send our kids there to be a double agent and to lose their Arabic accent in Hebrew. You know? So don't tell anyone. It's that we want them to assimilate. Who cares about the Arabic of the Israeli students? And actually, when you continue here, the sad thing, and also it's a little bit connected to reality, that many of the Israeli students want to join the elite intelligence units in Israel. That's what Shira also, So there's, that became the reason. And there's a wonderful book I mentioned yesterday by Yoni Mendel about the militarization of the Arabic language for the use of the army. Sorry?
It's true in the U.S. Yes.
Here also?
It's on the list.
I'm here. I would love to join whatever who's hiring.
It's on the list of required languages for the State Department.
Yeah.
The Arabic for so.
But you have to be a citizen, or
yeah.
No scams.
Yes. So actually, there's a follow-up from the chat here that people ask. They ask, so how is madrasa accepted in Israel? Is it a good rating, good reception, or?
Critics wonderful. The channel was great, and they are very proud of it. And they ordered the second season. Rating-wise, the lowest numbers in the educational channel. Sorry?
David Simon's shows are critically acclaimed. His audience is quite small.
Interesting.
Yes, but madrasa is very communicative, and no, I mean I'm a fan of his work, of course, but it's here because I mean. We'll see. I truly believe, as the others, that maybe it will. I think it's some kind of the shows that will take time, and also I don't think really it's mainly for kids. I think let's give it some time for the grown-ups to get there and watch it. It's doing well, but nothing compared to the kids shows. Like shakshuka, and it's for very little kids. So it's not doing the numbers from the educational for the kids channel in Israel, but it's doing well.
You had a question?
Hi, I'm Shayla. I'm a junior here at Suffolk, and I'm also the editor-in-chief of our student-run newspaper. I was just wondering, as a journalist, when you're writing for an American paper versus an Israeli paper, how addressing the audience can be different. How
addressing?
Yeah, how addressing the audience can be different.
Well, unlike in Israel, I cannot consider myself as a journalist in an American newspaper. In Israel, I was a known journalist. I was writing a weekly column. So yes, so there's audience. They know me. They have their expectations. Here, it's once a while. It's writing a column, so I'm not thinking about I'm not thinking that the audience will know, oh, that's me, and we're expecting some kind of tone or something. So it's more general. So I think that will be something. So I don't have a language or voice that I can point at when talking about this. Occasional writing for newspaper, which I enjoy a lot. Sometimes some of them are very funny, some are a little bit more serious, or like the Palestinian diaspora piece that I was ordered by a wonderful editor. So I cannot talk about my American experience as a journalist, I have to say. But it will be challenging, I guess. I don't know. I mean, probably I'll be a little bit more nicer to the American, I don't know, at the beginning at first. But honestly, I don't know. I cannot talk about myself as a journalist in the States yet.
So we have another question here.
Sure. Hi, I'm Michal. I'm an academic here in Boston. I have a question about when your books are translated to English, for example, or any other languages, I don't know. But a lot of your points are made within the jokes, kind of in Hebrew. And how do you think they translate when it's translated to English? And who's the audience who understands those nuances that's in your jokes? That's super clever in Hebrew, but I don't know how they translate in English.
What makes you think that I read my books in English or in any other languages? I have wonderful translators, and I absolutely trust them. But except from
So I'm Susan, and I'm really formal. And I wanted to tell you about an upcoming
pieces that I
program we
read
have,
for
and I'll
reading.
email
Never
you.
truly. I mean, I received some questions and notes from the translators. So I very much know that some things would be lost in translation, but I absolutely trust my translators. But I barely read my books in Hebrew. Are you kidding me? You want me also to write that and to read the translations in other languages? It's challenging, the translation, of course. But one of the things is the use of the language. For example, so it's a joke. Yes, I do read the books in English, but not in other languages. I have no idea. But for example, the last novel that was translated, Track Changes. One of the, I think, the powerful things there was the use of the Arabic language. You know, this they use sometimes the novel is written in Hebrew, we can say, but then there are a couple of or 3 pages only in Arabic with no translation in the Hebrew. So that's a statement when you write a book in Hebrew, and there are a few pages, supposedly the most important, the final conversation between the father and son, written in Arabic and then not followed by translation to Hebrew. Actually, only a note, because that's Track Changes. I had this idea to write, it's about an editor to write a book, and that would look like, with the comments and with the delete. And then when I sent it, said, we'll love it. The publisher said, we love the story, we love the idea. We think that Track Changes is just part of the whole story about the editor changing his life story and editing it so you can see the deleted. But that needs color pages that will cost us like $1,000 to print a book. So the whole thing just was deleted. So there's a note, don't forget to translate your last conversation with father in Hebrew. But it was never translated. Does it have the same impact leaving Arabic in an English book translated? It would not. So it was followed by the translation. In France, for example, it was left the same thing with Arabic and French without the translation in the end. Here I was asked, and they said, no, there's no point. You can translate it to English, or it can be followed. The translation will be followed by the end of the novel. So that's when you use when you challenge the language, you know, a lot in all my writings, I do write sometimes Arabic in Hebrew letters, and sometimes I keep it, sometimes I translate like, I use sentences that I know that you use in Arabic, direct translation, but it's not used in Hebrew. So that this accented, my Arabic accent writing Hebrew is not usually translated, and they accept that because it works only between Arabic and English. So it is challenging, but it's part of the game. So yeah, so I hope that that works. I've heard that the first book in Italy I wrote about Kfar Saba, which is a town next to Pira, that was translated the village of my grandfather, which makes the story completely different. But it's not kidding.
The village of my grandfather. That's a good one.
And we have a question here.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Idan. I'm from MIT. I would like to hear your thoughts about the recent events in Israel, and do you think it's affect the Arab-Israeli community in some way, or just like an inner Jewish thing that is going on?
The problem that any inner internal Jewish debate is going to affect the Palestinians and the Arabs very harshly. Again, as I mentioned, I can understand it always like if you're not familiar, there's a lot of protest about the democracy in Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu and what's going on. The other camp will discuss that it's a fight for democracy and for equality and something like that. Needless to say, what group I do support here, I think it's my Haaretz readers, after all. So But I cannot ignore the fact that, and also why the Arabs are not participating. I have to say that some of the groups I see, sometimes there are flags and some signs saying no democracy with occupation, but you cannot ignore that. And if you look at the photos, it's always with the Israeli flag. And the Israeli flag, it's a Jewish flag. And it's always end up, and it was, and the demonstration in Tel Aviv ended up with singing the Tikva. The Tikva is the Israeli anthem. And then I read in another article that, yes, some Arab activists and politicians wanted to participate in the demonstrations, but they were asked to deliver their speeches in advance, and they actually were asked to delete some sentences and censor their speeches. So that makes you think, like, what is going on here? I understand. I have wonderful friends and producers that I work with that told me, I don't understand why Arabs are coming with the Palestinian flags and why people are raising it. This is not the time, and this is not. There are even some again, they're mad about Palestinians coming to demonstrations or other Israelis with the Palestinian flag. So if it's discussing democracy without talking about the occupation or without relating to that, or considering the status of the democracy in the West Bank and Gaza, that would be a little bit of a hypocrisy. And I think that have been writing about, you cannot treat the Palestinian or the Arab that way and expect it's not going to get you by the end. You cannot define whenever it's convenient for you, again, generally speaking, the state as Jewish, and then when it's demand to be Jewish, and there are consequences, I guess, if you don't have a constitution and you wanted to define the state as Jewish. And I didn't see much demonstrations. Yes, there was some protests, some columns when the Chok HaLeom, how the state. Nation state law in Israel.
Meaning Israel is the nation state of the Jewish
the
people.
The only nation that can be recognized is the Jewish nation without recognizing the borders of Israel. So what I'm saying, yes, the conflict here is going to affect the Arabs and the Palestinians, and they do support the demonstrations for the democracy and against this the destruction, yes, of course, of the Supreme Court and the other institutions in Israel. But I very much hope that the Arabs and the Palestinians will be included in this equation, and I very much hope that Israelis will understand that without Arab liberal or socialite, liberal in a good way, for individual rights, not for economic ideology, they have to be partners in building this place that we share and live together for a better future. So I hope it will happen, but I don't see how yet.
Max has a question over there.
Hi, my name is Max. I'm a senior here at Suffolk. I'm also in Michal's class. But I was just wondering, some of our readings for class were your articles. One of them was from the New York Times, and it was about kind of what you were just discussing, the nation-state law kind of being from de facto discrimination to de jure. So I was just wondering, with the protests as well, kind of in relation to the last question, do you think that Israeli society is moving in one direction further to the right with the coalition that's going on? Or do you think that, with the shows that you've written, like Madrasa, that there is a want for coexistence, that eventually, even if it is in maybe decades to come, that there will be change, that there will be, again, like a want for coexistence?
Thank you so much for your question. I mean, Madrasa, I'm sure that without my writing, the peace agreement between the Palestinians and the Israelis would never been signed. I take no credit for any political future in that region. I work for money. And that's it, they don't pay that much. No, it's, I hope so. I don't know. I mean, there is something, one of the things that they tend to discuss also in the let's call it in Israel, the definition between left and right, it's a little bit like here also, the liberal and the conservative. You don't know who's left anymore, you know. It's considering left, it's like very basic values, and you're already left, you know. So for me, my definition for being left is a little bit different, and not necessarily include nationalism in it. But I'm not naive, and I'm not rejecting nationalism or nationality, not nationalism, of course. Anyway, what I'm trying to say that people would love to talk about coexistence, and sometimes in Israel they will talk about, you support the one state or the two-state solution. It is one state. It is one state. It is one state, including Gaza and the West Bank, controlled. If you control the sky, the borders, and the life, and the water, and the electricity, and everything, it is one state. It is one state with people with rights and no rights. So I think this is an illusion. Sometimes you read it, like, you know, many journalists also in the New York Times, oh, it's too late for the two-state solution, and the danger, we are getting far from. It is one state. It is. There's no, as a debate, and we are waiting. Yes. So that's the situation. Honestly, I don't know what's going to happen. I hope, knowing a little bit of the Israeli education system, of the Israeli. I hate words like mentality, so I call it Israeli system, the media, the education system, where what kind of conscious that built in Israel, it's towards segregation, and it's towards superiority, and it's towards a Jewish state. Yes, the definition how Jewish and how democratic, that's the debate. It's never about inclusion of Palestinians or a state for its all citizens. Yes. Actually, Balad, I don't want to go deep into that, but the idea of the Medinat Kol Ezracheha, which is the basic of democracy, a state of its all citizens, is considered to be a very radical, anti-Israeli, dangerous thought in Israel. So it's illegal. Yeah. So I don't think that we are going into that direction at all. That's why I'm in St. Louis. Albanian in St. I chose
Albanian in
St. Louis. After identity crisis, I decided. Okay.
Cam, did you have a question? Cam.
Yeah. My name's Cam. I'm also in Professor Michal's class. But so you talked earlier about like the way to get your message through your shows is through comedy and like kind of bridging the gap between Israeli, Palestinian. But in class we've talked about like this has been a conflict which has been going on since before any of us in Michal's class were born, and it's going to be a problem for us as we continue to grow up. But as someone who's kind of worked with both Israelis and Palestinians, what would you say, in your opinion, would be a good starting off point, like a common ground, more so politically rather than through television or film, like where you've seen that people could kind of sort of get along, as political scientists or international relations majors who find interest in trying to work towards a solution, that hopefully we might be able to see in our lifetime or a kid's lifetime. Where would you recommend we might be able to start based on your experiences?
Thank you so much. That's a wonderful question. To find a solution for the, actually it's very easy. It's very easy. I mean, it can be very easy, yes, if there are the powers to force. I think it's in the hands of Israel, And sometimes people say, oh, it's so complicated. No, it's not. Actually, things are very clear. It's called equality, and if you follow the international law, you'll be fine. Yes, that's the reality. It's not complicated. People say, "Oh, it's you don't have the history." No, I know. There are people with rights and with power, and people without rights and without power. You want to share? We end the problem. That's the easy thing. What I suggest, I have two but it's not going to happen. So I, like in my TV's thing, I have two solutions. One, I have a project for the first Palestinian superhero. It's like an accident in a Birzeit University chemistry. And he's the most depressed, identity crisis Palestinian superhero. The Hamas do not like his suit, his uniform, and the Palestinian Authority arrest him, and he ends up, you know, depressed and doesn't want to do anything about nationalism. And the other one, which is a comedy that can solve the situation in the Middle East, it's that Schweiz? They decide they never went to war to no one, and they decide, yeah, let's choose a country or a region to go to declare war against, and they don't, the Palestinian Israel no one cares about, and they just, like they start war in Palestine, Israel equally, they bomb Ramallah and Tel Aviv, and that will force the Palestinian and the Israelis to fight together against Switzerland.
The Swiss invasion.
So that's more realistic. A depressed Palestinian superhero with identity problems, or Swiss declares war on Ramallah and Israel, more realistic than admitting that we are occupying a different nation and we have to make justice and follow the international law and build a democracy, a real citizenship democracy that Jews and Arabs can live equally together, build a future together. That's the way I see it, honestly. I never wanted to live in an Arab or a Palestinian state or not Israel. I want to live with my Jewish partners and friends and neighbors, the same thing that I wanted to share life with my Palestinian friends and neighbors and partners. That's it.
Maybe we have time for one more question. Paul has a question.
Hello, so I'm Paul. I'm also in Michal's class. Oh, is it on? Hi, there we go. Hi, so I'm Paul. I'm also in Michal's class. So a lot of political scientists and historians have characterized this conflict as this like a big fight over narratives, with the Israelis believing one narrative and the Palestinian side believing another narrative. So I was just wondering, in your experience and in your writing, how have you been able to craft a narrative that bridges the gap between those two very divisive and, like, at times completely contradictory narratives?
Yes. I have yeah, thank you so much. It's something that I don't know, I'm still looking for a way. You know, I run away again to repeat that. But the thing one of the things about, I know, you know, a nation has narration and nations are narration and the whole discursive thing, of course, it's very powerful and the imagined communities and national, I truly believe in that, of course. And it's structured and the nations, yes, it is about the Baba's approach and the Edward Said approach about narratives and nations. I truly agree with that. But on the other hand, I hate this word narrative a lot because sometimes it makes you think that there's no materialistic, you know, it goes to this discursive idea that everything is just, of course, I'm not saying that language and narratives are not, they are very, of course, they're super important. And I'm dealing with it. But again, it distracts us from the materialism, from historical facts, from what truly happened. So it doesn't matter to me how you justify your acts and how you explain your defeat from the Palestinian point of view or how you justify your acts from the Israeli point of view. We have to agree in historical facts, otherwise we are in a very deep problem. So this narrative thing, it annoys me a lot. It's not about narrative. It's about reality. I don't even need to go to the history. I just look at the reality right now to know that something narrative or not narrative is very, very wrong and unjust taking place. Understand? So yes, I relate to narrative, and I always say that let's bring the power of narrative, of course, of the national narrative, and of course, in a place like Israel, Palestine, we are far from being away from nationalism and national identity building, right? So just let's find another lie that kids that can combine the two narratives together. That's what I'm trying to do in madrasa, at least to suggest that. Yes. So we take the very pressing matters like the partition plan from the Palestinian view and the Israeli view, and learn to live and respect, not to live, not, I don't know if it's, yeah, to live with that, to acknowledge it, to know that the other's story is as powerful as yours. And you have to understand that, and you have to live with that, and combine the two, let's call them narrative, and sorry for using that a lot, because I hate the word narrative, together. Yes, I always say that sentence, let's find a different lie to tell our kids, and then that lie, Palestinians and Israelis can live together. But, you know, and maybe, yeah, so narratives are powerful, I hate them, and but we don't need to change them. We just need to cancel the idea of narratives.
Whenever I listen to you say it, I can't help by thinking about Emil Habibi, another famous Palestinian author, and The Secret Life of Said, the Peso-Optimist.
Yes.
Asking, and I'll quote, "I don't differentiate between optimism and pessimism, and I'm quite at loss as to which of the two characterizes me. When I awake each morning, I thank the Lord He did not take my soul during the night. If harm befalls me during the day, I thank Him it was no worse. So which am I, a pessimist or an optimist?"
Yes.
I think Said is also
I mean,
Peso-Optimist.
Yes, Peso-Optimist. Yeah, that's the title of the book. But that was published in 1973.
73.
Yeah. Since then, I think I actually have one paper starting. I don't know if if he will keep any optimism if this book was written today. Since '73, they still thought that the Soviet Union can rescue them. Yes, he was.
Yes, Emil Habibi definitely will. Yes,
It's a wonderful book, and yes, and so there's a wonderful book because again I'm tracking hope. I'm somehow even in madrasa how you can find hope, because I truly believe that you cannot. Even in a very irrational, I cannot give up hope. I don't have any reason to be hopeful. So there's a wonderful book that switched my whole dissertation into affect theory and tracking hope. It's called Hope Without Optimism. So yes, and how to deploy and how to find hope in the most dark texts and sometimes or even situations, because you cannot truly afford it. And I think in one of my columns I wrote, okay, it will be soon. It's that they say sometimes, the Palestinians say that it's not clear if it's Ben-Gurion or Golda said that when they were asked about the Palestinian refugees, they said that the old will die and the young will forget. And yeah, Ben-Gurion. Yeah, I didn't find any, but yes. And then I thought, but that's it. The old refugees will die and the young will forget. And I think the young cannot forget because nothing changed. The Nakba is continuous, maybe a little bit slowly, but destruction and refugeehood. And you are always reminded it's there. You cannot forget it. If it was happened, it's once upon a time. Maybe we'll have some cookies and we cry for 2 days. But it's there. You're reminded all the time. It's continuous. So my fear for many others is that the old will die and the young will lose hope. And I think a lot of the Israeli politics in the settlements in the West Bank and around the world forget about it's not to forget, but to forget that the future can be better. It's to forget give up the idea that you can have a better future. So that's the stressing thing, is forcing you to lose hope for a better better future, both for the Arabs in Israel, Palestinians in Israel, West Bank, refugees around the world. That's the politics. Let them lose hope for any potential solution that can make the lives of Palestinians better.
So enough for me, I'm at least going to take this thing away. The hope without optimism. That will be my takeaway from the talk today. Thank you, Sai, so much. Thank you.